Are you ready?
Are you kidding me? That's what?
Yeah, every so often it happens that Ryan is right.
100% right. Not even a little bit right.
Tucker Pullman, 2 points last game.
No kidding.
My man!
Hey, neither does me running shirtless, but that turned out very well.
Welcome to the PP1 podcast.
I got it.
Hey, first try. Attaboy.
Must have taken the playoffs to make it happen. Welcome to the Herald of the PP1 podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network. It's a hockey show. Man, do you see my golf clips this weekend? Really doing well right now. Really doing well. Like, I've had nothing else to do, so I've really been. Who cares about the golf? Because the Vancouver Canucks are back in the playoffs.
Oh, man.
Teddy, and they got game one, baby. They got game one.
Unreal. What a game, too, hey? Like, just like your classic, like, Canucks playoff game, right? I mean, it's like starts off like shot out of a cannon, big hits all over the place, probably cracked more hits off in the first like 10 minutes than they've had in like 2 games straight.
Totally.
And then before you know it, we're down. Like, boys stick to it, get back in the game. It's a bit of a seesaw battle. And then lo and behold, they just take over the third period. What an unreal game. Man, that was fun to watch. It was so good just to see playoff hockey again. Oh, like, I'm good goosebumps talking about it right now.
Man, we had like multi-group chats going on. You and me and Steve. I'm getting texts from my brother-in-law in Australia. He's jacked, ready to go. My sunburn was ready to go from the get-go.
I was going to say.
AKA Raccoon Boy. That game, it had everything to start, and like the nerves were there. They're throwing massive hits, and you're thinking like, okay, like they are gonna run these guys out of the building. They go up 1-0. That Tucker goal, or Zucker, sorry, I said Tucker. I mean, definitely one Demko probably wanted back. I can't remember if it was any kind of a tip. Didn't really look like it, but like, you knew they weren't even out of this game. Like, it quieted a little bit, but then the fans, like, we all know Canucks fans, like, as soon as there's a goal, everything just dies. Like, just dies.
Yeah,
and
there's a bit of that.
But they brought it back. They brought it back. They kept the game going, and the fans got right back into it. It's like, you know what? You're not going to take this away from us yet. Like, we're still in this. And then, obviously, Mr. I haven't been around for very long. Offensively, I mean, Elias Lindholm. And like an absolute snipe city. That was we should rename your burner account to Elias Lindholm Snipe Selly.
What did we make that burner account for? I can't even remember.
That was going to be Grant. You two had me almost lose it. Like, gives us the feels again, man. Gives us the feels. It's I don't know how this exactly works, but because I know how to use this from our last show, the last time we did the playoffs. You ready for this, Ted?
Let's do it.
Big.
Oh my God. Look at that. Look at the athleticism involved in making that save.
He got full split.
Like,
and
he could have been there, like, perfectly shot to the post, like you're supposed to do that, because he misfired that puck and he shot it sort of center of the net. Yeah, he could have went to the post to make that shot, and Demko still would have got there in time. Like, how explosive is that guy? Is he okay? Is the knee okay? I don't know. It looks fine to me.
I told Christine, I'm like, she was in a meeting for speed skating tonight, coincidentally at the same time as this game, so we were in separate spots, and she comes into the room and I'm like, you got to see this Demko save. I'm like, he did full splits. Like, I'm not talking like splits. I'm talking like full splits. His junk was on the ice. That's how low he went. And she's like, I'm still getting over that comment. We saw the tie goal. Then we see Canucks get it right back. We eventually, anyway, they tied up. And then, man, I think this dude might be.
Oh boy,
we might be getting some vibe checks throughout the playoffs. Let's roll this one.
Regular season playoffs combined. Quinn Hughes up to 20 points. There's another chance to score. Dakota Joshua.
I was still up in the house, like fist bumping people on this, like on the last goal. before that one was scored. Like,
yeah. Do you just want to end the show on that? We could probably just walk away. That was like a mic drop moment. Like it was, and then he gets the empty netter. The guy had himself, like, if anybody wants to know how important Dakota Josh was to the Vancouver Canucks in the year of our Lord 2024, that was the game that you're all going to remember. This is going to be when he's going to be telling his kids about, I don't even care how the playoffs end. He's going to be telling everybody, game one, I put the team on my back. JT Miller tried to, almost scored a few times.
Oh man, he was a beauty tonight too. He was just so physically imposing, him and Joshua. Like, like everybody was throwing their weight around. It's like the boys just save it all season, right? We're just trying to stay healthy. The season's it's a marathon. We're just trying to get there. You empty the tank as soon as you get into the playoffs, and they're doing it right now. And when you have guys like Joshua and Miller that are that physically imposing and able to impact the game like that, this guy could be just an absolute killer. We talked about it throughout the course of the season, how important he is to the squad, how devastating that third line can be, and how we need that third line to be established in the playoffs. We didn't think that it could get any better than having Blueger and Garland and Joshua on that line. And then lo and behold, Blueger moves down a line. He's a good third line center, looks even better as a fourth. You slot Lindholm in there. And there was all this talk about Lindholm having to be the guy to put up the offensive numbers, which he did in this game. But how good does he look as a third line center, especially in that list? Like he's got chemistry with anybody, but one more point on this line too, because of how devastating Joshua was to this team right now. Like this Nashville team, just what a thorn in the side. How great is it to see him and Connor Garland is basically like the odd couple of the NHL right now. Like,
totally.
Like it's odd couple. It's planes, trains, and automobiles. Like these are the most unlikely duel, fist fighting in camp before regular season breaks. And I think these two just know what they have with one another. You got them talking in cars about Garland hooking him up with his suit guy to make his style better. Like all this stuff. Like they're just. I had no idea. Like I had no idea. Yeah, we're the odd couple too, but I had no idea that Garland was going to be so impactful in the playoffs and down low. He's just impossible to hit down there. Like, I don't know. This is going to be a fun third line to watch this year. And I think teams are going to have a hard time answering these guys right now, honestly. I
wanted to get into the Garley talk. His possession in the third period, like his little spinoramas behind the net there, like in Gretzky's office. Like he just kept, he just kept basically killing the clock, but trying to make a play. And then finally, obviously, does because he was the one that threw it up to Joshua for the third goal, I think, right?
Yeah, but he was the guy that sort of spun down low. He's the only guy that could have been low enough to see that lane between the skates. Puck squeaks through, hand of God, right to Joshua, and then to have the brains to see that Saros is coming cross crease to meet him, and then go opposite post, carries his momentum against him. Like just genius plays. For how physically imposing he is, he does not get enough credit for how smart of a hockey player is. We had James Rayburn on the show a little while back, and he was talking about how smart the guy is at the puck. But I mean, that's a playoff guy. That guy is built for the playoffs. And Grant mentions here in the chat here, Miller, Zadorov, Joshua, all perfectly fit for playoff hockey. He's right. Like he really is. I think Garland's fun to watch. Obviously, when you have a guy like Miller leaning on guys, Joshua leaning on guys in the forecheck, you got Big Z running around there.
You launched him into level 300. You see that?
Oh my God, he was over 9,000 for sure. Little Dragon Ball reference there.
It was like the one thing, and we'll get into all the good first. There was definitely some bad, as the silence in the group chat resembled.
Oh damn, that's
the really physicalness. The physicalness of that game was definitely felt. I think they talked to O'Reilly in second intermission on kind of how that game was going and ways they were going to try to kind of keep the game maybe a bit more level-headed when they had the lead. But I think the one thing, pardon me,
the Preds were going to try to do that.
Yeah, he just said like Murph was just saying like, what are you going to do? Like the Canucks are definitely throwing out all the hits. What are you guys going to do to kind of maybe keep them at bay? And he's like, well, keep kind of doing what they're doing and just trying to keep it between the blue lines. The longer they can do that, they can kind of drag it out. I mean, it was working for sure. Those super stretch passes were definitely opening up the game. But then the Canucks just dialed it in. They cut everything in half. And all of a sudden, that game just totally changed. The third period was, I mean, it was tense. Christine looks at me and she's like, she goes, I can feel how tense you are just looking at you. She's like,
just clinched buttholes for the whole game.
She just looked at me and it was like, I would love to know what that looks like, because I mean, I could feel it. Like you knew this game wasn't over. It's not like they were out. It's just, we as a fan base, we have not been here in so long. And for it to be this meaningful already, like, it's not just the playoffs. This isn't like the Canucks sneak in the playoffs or the 7th seed. Like, a lot of people are expecting them to do damage this year, and that's tough to live up to.
Well, I think people are expecting to do damage, but those people are like the odd analyst and Canucks fans. Like, the rest of the league, especially in the Western Conference, like, this is the team. We're the team. The Canucks are the team that everybody wants to play.
Can I stop you for a second,
Yeah.
Grant? Everybody, I don't know who's watching our show right now, because there's a bunch of post-game shows, and rightfully so. If you're not watching ours, go watch someone else's too. Like, there's plenty. I mean, even pop in and out like you do Pub Crawl. Francesco Aquilini updated the tweet to 2024. Man, so tight, almost like a playoff game. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. He's got the billions to prove it. So
does he? I don't know. Sometimes I don't know what he's doing, but
that's clever. I'll give him that. Game 1, I'll give him that. That was pretty impressive. Sorry, get back to what you were saying there. I apologize.
Oh, I can't even remember. I think I'm still just on cloud 9. But like, yeah, it was a kind of a spicy, drawn out, first and second period. It was like somewhat low event. I mean, the shot total, I don't even know what it finished at. I remember looking up with a few minutes left to go, and shots were like 20-20.
Yeah,
but
I think you might have had 40 something shots total.
Yeah, like, I mean, a lot of block shots in the early stages of the game. Then the Canucks get into penalty trouble, and it's not looking good, right? I mean, they get pretty chewed up on that power play, and I think the next power play they kill off, but they look like they're getting turnstile, I think, for the most part. And then I don't know what happens to Nashville here after they take that second penalty, but they go into their third power play. And it was like I can't tell if they just completely decided to change what they were doing on the power play, or if the Canucks adapted, but they were definitely being, they were pursuing them more in the offensive zone, and through the neutral zone. They were kind of attacking them early before they gained the line, really trying to sort of break things up, prior to them getting possession in the offensive zone. And there was some scary moments there. And I still think that Vancouver has a problem when they get the puck to turn and fire it up the ice and get it out. They seem to shoot it to the defender a lot. Mano McDonough had a bat down, and a couple other guys sort of held the line to sort of continue pressure down low. And that honestly was the scariest part of the game, them sort of having to adapt and adjust on the penalty kill. Especially when you got like Blucher. Yeah.
Did you notice that they looked two different penalty kills? There was kind of the early ones weren't so great. The early ones looked like they were giving them time and space. Like, it looked like they allowed the 5 players to expand. And then all of a sudden they started attacking and making them move the puck more. Yeah. And I think for Nashville's sake, I mean, it worked and it didn't work. But I think the Canucks were trying to get them to move the puck more because they knew their sticks could get involved at that point.
Yeah, I mean, and Myers had a couple of big breakouts down low. I think Soucy did too, and this was really obviously it's our first sort of viewing of what this defense core can look like in the playoffs, right? I mean, when you have a guy like Carson Soucy on your team and he's your third biggest defenseman, that's a thing. And these guys don't play with that level of physicality every game, for 60 minutes all season, right? I mean, but they can really dial it up in the playoffs. And I think having Cole as your smallest defenseman of those like bottom 4 guys, right? Those bottom 2 pairings. He's still 225 pounds, right? I mean, that is not a small guy. You saw him manhandle a couple of guys come in on hits, brace for impact, reverse hit, right? I mean, as long as they can sort of keep their game structured, I mean, this is where we're sort of going to reap the rewards of them having that size of defenders on the squad, and it sort of frees up Hronek and Hughes to do what they want as that one pairing, right? So hopefully they can just continue to lean on them throughout the course of the series. And I don't expect Nashville to just go away. This is a really good team. But Saros looked
Not
a little
a chance.
shaky in the early stages of the game too. It was a really funny game, but yeah, man, both these teams are dialed in to play some tough hockey.
It had a lot of parts. I think I just want to kind of lean into your comment on the defenseman. So you kind of mentioned that, there's the big hits on like one guy, like a Susie or Zadorov or whatever. Well, they've got 4 of these guys that can dish it out, but they can also take it. So as a playoff series goes on, as the playoffs itself goes on, usually you don't have that many massive dudes like that. Like you have maybe 1 or 2, and it's great if you got 2. It's amazing if you got 3, because you're going to be able to kind of distribute, kind of, I guess, receiving of the hits, if you will. So they're going to allow more guys to kind of be physical, take the physicality to them, and allow the skill guys to maybe do a little bit more. They've got Joshua on the screen right now, to do a little bit more of their stuff. You know what I mean? Like they're kind of able to allow those guys to do their thing, which that's a lot, man. Because when you're having to be physical with one guy, you can isolate a guy like a John Scott, or who else would have been in there? Like, who are some of the bigger guys that Vancouver's played against? I mean, Dustin Byfuglien, Michael Furland. Like, you focus on one guy. Well, they've got 4 of those guys, and they're all of them on defense. You're not even including the nasty rat guys like Connor Garland or Dakota Joshua. Or, I mean, it probably won't happen this series. I mean, I'm just guessing. But, I mean, a guy like Elias Pettersson might even be nasty in a round 2. JT Miller, like, you want him as far as offense goes, but he's a nasty piece of business too. Like,
oh yeah,
there's a lot of aggression on that team, but not everybody has to unleash it. Like, it's almost like you can just like kind of save, like in your fighting games, like the power bar, like you can use it if you want, but you don't really need it. But if you do need it, you can unleash the beast for 4 guys, and you can, for might only be a period, but you can really take it to a team. And Nashville's going to be the kind of team, I think it'll be a war of attrition. Like, they just look like the kind of team that if you can outlast them, you got a good shot, because they can do the same thing to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think these 2 teams are built very similarly, like from top to bottom, right? I mean, I think Vancouver has better center depth. I think that's going to be a big piece of the pie. I mean, but then you got some guys on the Nashville squad, like you've really noticed Evangelista out there, right? The guy is really fast. Really noticed Tommy Novak down low. He's kind of an annoying player, right? I mean, those are guys that you like to have in, in a playoff format where they can sort of get out there and use their wheels, right? So it's going to be really imperative for them to have a player like Elias Lindholm not only score a big pivotal goal, but to be there to sort of shut guys down. And I noticed him out there. He was physical. He was tough. I didn't notice, Höglander, for example, a whole ton
till the 3rd.
But he was out there in the 3rd, and he was doing the Garland thing, like rolling around. I think in the regular season, he probably could have had a couple of calls drawn, right? I mean, eventually he's going to start to get those calls. And I think that level, that work rate that those guys bring to the table is going to be, if you can somehow get up in the early game and then close the game out by leaning guys like that 3rd and 4th lineup, almost like what they did in this game here, that's a really good recipe for success. I think it allows some of your other guys to get some rest. I think it takes some of the pressure off, and then you can really just put it to those guys to close the game out. And they did a really great job of it today, man. That was like a lot of fun to watch.
It was, get back to the fan part of it for a second. Like, it was definitely, it was a tough one to watch, because again, all that pent up frustration and the energy build up. I mean, man, I had my peanut butter porter. That thing was chugged inside the first 10 minutes. That's not an easy drinking beer. So there was a lot of build up there. I think I said the Canucks were going to blow them out by like 4 goals, just based on an energy thing. And I know that's a reach, but there's been so much building up to this. And like I said, if it was any other playoffs, I think it would be a little different. But there's been so much talked about this team for so long. We started the show for the sole fact that, I mean, it says in the PP1, like, it was about who's going to be on the first power play, because that was just the thing we picked on. And it's so different than 5 years ago. It's so different than 9 years ago. This is a very, very good team. Now, yes, They won game 1. We're living on cloud 9 right now. But I mean, the vibes are there. Like, it's not like they just snuck out a win. When they did get the lead, that last 6 minutes, Nashville barely had the puck. They had a couple chances, but they barely had the puck. Vancouver made sure, and even the guys like Besser, like it was just like an absolute clinic on puck possession, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was spurts in the game where Nashville was really threatening, that they were controlling play, specifically in the second period. And I think that there was some weird stuff that went on, like a couple of seeing eye shots and 2-level screens, and that stuff always hard to sort of work around as a goaltender. And I don't care what anybody says, and I know that they didn't go and challenge the second goal that got that Demko got beat on, right? Where he sort of came through, and I think it was Evangelista again, sort of got his stick on his glove as he's trying to go up, right? And when you're that good and shots are coming into that level and that quality, like inches and centimeters make differences, right? I mean, and he's inches off of being able to make that glove save as a fairly routine glove save, and then couldn't in that era, right? So yeah, I mean, that's just sneaky stuff that goes on, and that's part of the game. And I think that it's fine that Vancouver didn't challenge on that play, but other than like sort of that second period and maybe just an odd spurt in the first and an odd spurt in the third, I mean, I feel like Vancouver controlled this game for the most part. And I will give credit to the fact that I think it was the first time in a while that it really looked like they had put Hughes under some pressure too. He was really having to work to make plays, still making all the right plays, still making those plays. But they were definitely forechecking hard. So I'm really excited to see how this next game works out. Like, these guys are going to be pretty beat up after this game. I feel like there was a lot of hits thrown.
I think everybody's going to need a good night's sleep after this one. I like that once Tocchet basically knew it was going to be trivial to make a true challenge on that one. If he gets it wrong, it's a penalty. And the way the game was going,
that would have been really tough.
It could have swung the game totally differently. So I think he made the mature decision, and you can just see it. I'm watching the press conference right now. Like, dude's not even like, he's not smiling. He's just talking like it's just an intermission.
I think he's going to be like, they're going to hear about the stick infractions, right? That's kind of like that's been the drum being beaten for the last month or so. It feels like they're still struggling with it. I mean, it's going to be tough. Yeah, a bit of a funny one. So yeah, Grant mentions here, maybe best thing that it's so fresh to watching some of the teams that have played a ton of playoff hockey now over the past few years, yesterday and today, crowd just isn't as much of a factor. I don't know. Like, I can definitely see that point. But I do feel like, especially after talking to Aaron yesterday about what a crowd does for you in the psyche, I think that, yeah, he brings up a good point. But I think, like, as long as the crowd stays into it and they keep working to whip them up, right, then they can sort of overcome a goal, like an early goal or something like that. But I think the crowd can be a factor in the fact that if you get beat by a quick goal and it shuts the crowd up and they don't get back into the game, that could be hugely deflating, right? I mean, I think it's more hard work and it's more difficult to get your team sort of whipped up and into it. And I think as crowds, they got to play a role in that, right? And the crowd was hopping tonight, though. Hey,
Streets of No Name. There's a lot of things that were revisited in this game. Hey, like you get the playoff towels. I mean, that's a constant in Vancouver. But when you bust out U2, there's been a lot of changes over the years, and they brought back something that was familiar. And I mean, you've been to a playoff game, right?
No.
We went in my first playoff game. It was against Anaheim the year that the poop game. We weren't at that one.
You were at the okay.
No, we weren't at the poop game. We were like 2 rows from the top, I think. Me, my dad, and Christine were up there. Everybody has their towels, and I'm dead serious. I almost cried. Like, I mean, the Canucks were also just killing it at the time too, right? Like, that was a pretty good team back then, and that everybody's doing the towels. You can feel the cold air rising all the way to the ceiling. And they're playing U2. And I mean, you just can't help yourself. You just get swept up in emotion. And I mean, in that game too, they went up 2-0. So that place was just rocking. They lost in overtime. But the playoffs in Vancouver, the playoffs in Montreal, I mean, geez, if Toronto would have won game 1, well, it was in Boston, so that's a little different. Like, there's nothing like it. They say it every year. Football players say it. You know, basketball players say it. Everybody's talking about it. The Stanley Cup playoffs are no joke. Every single year is an absolute juggernaut. And game 1 in Vancouver was no exception. I mean, it was an exception. It was exceptional.
I'm just so happy it's back, Ryan. Like,
I know.
I was trying to explain to the kids, right? I mean, they were so small the last time that the Canucks were playing important hockey again, right? I mean, relevant hockey. I mean, even that series versus LA, which, you know, was a tough one. It was over so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't really, like, there was no sharing of what happened during that season. There's no real memories made from that season, right? And so I think we're all just itching for that. We're itching to make new memories, right? We're sort of established new roots with this team to share it with our families, right? I mean, that's all the good stuff, and that's like really what I'm so stoked about. And just, you know, things like the back-to-back goals happen, and the kids are going wild, and, you know, it's fun to watch, and that's what we're here for, right? And they start to understand the gravity of winning one game out of a 7-game series, right? Like, it changes from like a 7-game series and so on and so forth. So just really fun stuff right now.
Yeah, they understand, like, you get the upper hand, and like tonight was a different one in our household. I was pretty much the only one involved. We just finished the ball tournament, so everybody's just kind of
that's the tan, eh?
Yesterday was no joke, folks. Didn't exactly know that I was going to need sunscreen. I did. My neck also looks like I had 10 goals scored on me. Red light Rasco over here. Got the bit of a sunburn. So yeah, you know, that's what it's like today. Put on sunscreen. What happened? Some of the heaviest winds I've been standing in for an hour and a half. I was freezing cold. So yeah, so it was a little bit of a looser household here today, except for me. I was as tight as a drum. But that'll change. That will change because the playoffs eventually get everybody swept up in it. And I think, I mean, it does kind of suck because our kids are a little bit younger than yours. So, you know, the later games don't always work in our favor in our house, but people aren't exactly the nicest people in the morning if that happens. So sometimes you gotta roll the dice on those. But you're right. It is a different feeling when you actually can share this. You can kind of kids are going to school tomorrow, and they're gonna be talking about the Canucks.
Yeah, finally.
Mm-hmm. And then there's gonna be a few kids that are gonna be talking about how the Oilers play. That'll be something. There's gonna be a few people that cheer for the Leafs, and they're probably not gonna talk about anything. They're gonna ask if they can get some more homework. So it changes. Everybody's got different vibes. Winnipeg won a massive one today against Colorado. Wouldn't that be nice?
That was wild. That was wild, that game. I remember just like going to the bathroom and coming back and 3 goals had been scored.
Yeah.
Like,
and you're a pretty quick bathroomer.
I mean, I'm not sometimes, but hey, that's the way she goes. So Tuesday we got 7:00 game. So we'll be back, posting live if anything happens in that game and in the positive variety. And then before we switched back to Nashville, and then we got a 4:30 game and a 2:00 game. So I guess I know what I'm doing on Sunday. The Friday game is going to be interesting. That'll be probably a cutout 3:30 from work thing. Make sure that we're home in time to watch that game. But yeah, man, it's going to be interesting. I like the little dynamic they showed of Nashville having to travel Vancouver, and then they showed, all of the teams that they traveled more than all combined comparatively, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But there's going to be some crazy miles logged in this series, and man, it's just so much fun. I can't wait.
I think if we see the Canucks go up, now this is a big ask. If they can go up 2-0, it's going to make the trip to Nashville a lot easier because at the very least, you're coming home. And
well, as we say, right, we really want to see this team try to close it up in 6 games, 5 or 6 games, right? So, any lineup changes you think for next game?
I think typical, like you go with the winning lineup. I think the main one is they gotta rein in those silly penalties because that was the thing that almost killed them tonight. It really was ugly to watch. It was frustrating because as a fan, you just dial yourself back and like, here we go again. Like,
you're just asking for it, right? I mean,
they're like, if they weren't a good team, but were they not one of the better power play teams as well? Like, they were going to make you pay for it. And they didn't, thankfully. They got one on the power play. But, I mean, you keep tempting fate, and guess what's going to happen? They're going to burn you.
By the time the Di Giuseppe penalty rolled around, which sucked, right? I mean, you ragged the puck all the way up.
Mm-hmm.
You lugged it all the way up there and then took a penalty and hadn't got a ton of shifts prior to that, right? So that was really unfortunate. But
the Hronek holding the stick one.
Yeah, I mean, that was like,
he knew better.
Yeah.
In the moment, he thought he was going to be able to get away with it, and he acted like he's super innocent. But I mean, he looked like a front man for a rock band. Like, he was holding on to the mic pretty tough there. So I don't know. Anyway, this has been fun.
Big win.
This has been fun. We're not going to overdo it. We both also work tomorrow, so it'd be nice if this was our job, because then we just talk as long as we want. But we're going to enjoy this, everybody.
Get Dan on for some of these too.
Yeah, I wanted to start one, just you and me. Just getting back to this. We did this well. And the last time we did it, it was a lot of fun. It was in the summer, which was super weird.
Yeah, it was in the summer. I was on my deck, I think. I did almost solo podcasting from my deck. It was kind of fun.
Yeah, it hits a little bit different. This is traditional.
It's a lot different.
So you want to jump in the lake? I do. Okay, let's do that.
Yeah, should we hang out and watch the game? Oh, we're not allowed. So
yeah,
this is great.
Yeah, that worked out a lot easier. So recap: Canucks win Game 1 4-2 over the Nashville Predators. This is not round 2; it's round 1. Dakota Joshua. We're not going to call him an unlikely playoff hero. We're calling him the becoming of a folk hero. This guy is about to be big news. He's going to cost the Canucks a lot of money after.
It'd be great if he could somehow, win the Claude Lemieux, John Druce, Matt Barnaby Award, or Fernando Pisani, I think, was another guy that had a big playoffs that you weren't expecting. I mean,
I think we were expecting them, though. For him, anyway.
I think we were, yeah. I mean, there was lots of talk about who's an unsung guy that could step up. I mean, how about Mr. Unsung himself, right?
Yeah, he's definitely sung going forward. So, I got one more comment in here. Yeah, 15 more. I hope so. Yeah. I mean, we might do some of the losses, but I mean, we got a pretty busy schedule too. There's also baseball season coming in. I'm not going to like how this is going to intersect with our baseball schedule. We'll have to figure it out. There you go, folks. This is the very first official, we're calling it official, PP1 podcast post-game Canucks playoff show. There's a lot of P's there.
Official?
Cardinal Official. On the Hockey Podcast Network, menagerie of hockey podcasts. I know there's going to be a Nashville one. They might not even do one, because who wants to talk about when you lose? Also, DraftKings promo code THPN. Go on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Go win yourself some money. Don't take my advice. Just go there. Put in the code. You make your own decisions, because I'm not great at doing that. On behalf of Ted, I am Ryan, the playoff towel merchant. Go Canucks, go. We're up in the series 1-0. Playoffs are back. Peace